Serving those who serve, NADA for veteran and military communities. This is a panel that definitely deserves our attention. And I would like to introduce to you Mark Farrington, who is a NADA trainer and is going to be a moderator for this panel. And Mark has been in the NADA community for a very long time. He's a former board member. He is a nurse who works at the Veterans Integrative Pain Center at the McGuire-Holmes Veterans Administration in Richmond, Virginia. And I will let Mark take it from here.
I'm feeling a little bit rattled because my glasses just broke, so if they fall off my face during the talk, I'm actually always kind of rattled. Oh, okay. So yes, I work at the VA hospital in Richmond, Virginia, and I did want to say a couple of things. When John Weeks was talking, and he mentioned Tracy Gaudet and the patient-centered care efforts going on at the VA. I wanted to give a little bit of perspective to that from somebody. I'm a nurse working at the VA, so from the inside, what the Office of Patient-Centered Care is doing isn't just talk. They have very systematically gone through and organized what they're calling whole health trainings, and what they're doing is training primary care physicians in integrative health practices. And they're piloting this in some VA hospitals, and it's growing throughout and having an effect. So when I first started working at the VA in 2009, when I went in to be interviewed for the job that I got working in crisis mental health, I was asked a question during the interview, and I don't remember the question, but in essence, the answer to the question was nada, and they hired me. So I took that as that it was okay. So I got there, and soon after I got there, I started talking about this ear acupuncture treatment. And somebody said, well, write a proposal and we'll see how it goes. So I wrote a proposal and got dead silence. I wrote a second proposal and got dead silence. I got a third proposal and nothing really happened with that. So I went to the director of mental health and asked, well, can I at least train veterans in Qigong, start some Qigong classes? And she said, okay, you can do Qigong, whatever that is. And so I started teaching Qigong, and what happened with that Qigong class was it almost immediately went from 5 veterans to 20 in my class. So I went to the director of mental health and said, can I have another class? And she said, yes, absolutely. The numbers speak volumes at the VA. So what happened was she said, yes, but I want you to do it over telehealth so that you're doing it to all of the community outpatient clinics in the area. So I started teaching Qigong, and then I think, John, you said that this whole health effort started around 2011. I think that's right. And around 2013, with the opioid crisis, they wanted our hospital to start a pain clinic to help work with veterans on high doses of opioid pain medicine. And they came to me and said, we want you to apply for a position in this pain clinic. So that's how I happened to get to that pain clinic. What I have seen at the VA is a very effective single-payer health system. And there are powers that be that I think are very threatened by that. And I think the VA is in the in danger of being defunded from the inside. And I think it's because of this threat. And yet it's folks like Tracy Gaudet that is, and the whole health efforts that are really helping to transform the VA system in a really good way. And as a single payer health system, they've got the ability to do that, and they're doing some good work. So anyway, it's within that context that I started working in this pain clinic. And now within this pain clinic, we're focusing on veterans with chronic pain, and we're doing the ear acupuncture. And one of the things about the ear acupuncture, and you'll hear a little bit more about this, I think Karen is going to talk a little bit about it from her perspective at another VA hospital. What we're doing why we're using NADA is it's really helpful for folks that are, all of our veterans with chronic pain, like all of our patients, have multiple problems. PTSD being amongst a big one. And we present the NADA protocol to folks as a way to get started in our clinic. Our clinic is set up as a year-long program that people can be in to learn skills. We want them to be learning mindfulness meditation, Qigong, Tai Chi, and biofeedback, and various things that can help calm the nervous system, improve their sleep, and so on. And the NADA protocol is a good way to do that immediately up front when they first start in our clinic. So that's a little bit of background about our clinic. And I'm just here introducing, I'm a moderator, I'm not a speaker. So I want to let you hear from some really remarkable people that I think will be very inspiring. Cornelia Jones is our first speaker. Let me just let her introduce herself, although when we did have an email communication, her sign off to me was, "Rock on, sir." So I'm gonna bring Cornelia up here and let her rock your world.
Who's sleepy? Heavy lunch? Claudia, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna wake you all up. There's only two of us to do this. We're gonna do it together. Ciao, Sean Lillian. Ciao, Sean Lillian. Ciao, Sai Sing Kong Su. They go Tom 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 Tom. Ciao, Sean Lillian. Ciao, Sai Sing Kong. Su. They go Tom. Tom 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 Tom. Ciao, Sean Lillian. Ciao, Sai Sing Kong. Su. They go Tom. Tom 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 Tom. Okay. Okay, so thank you. Claudia introduced that to the group that I had trained at Fort Hood, Texas. Good morning, or good afternoon, I'm Cornelia Jones. I am trained as a clinical psychologist, but I don't hang my hat necessarily on the Dr. Jones thing. So it doesn't really matter, it's my career path. So I'm not somebody special, I just happen to do stuff with cool people. This is gonna be sort of a roundabout, but I'm talking to you about treatment in the military, but really it's been about banging my head against the wall. It's been about talking to people about things that they're forgetting, we're not doing that. I'm in East, I'm talking to West people all the time, if anybody was in that little training. And so this has been for me, a journey in a lesson, which is right person, right place, right time, end of story. You can bang your head against the wall until you're all black and blue, but you need the right person, the right place, and the right time. And so when I finally realize that I'm not there, then I just back off and say, let go. But in the meantime, I'm called passionate or annoying or frustrating or whatever. So for some reason, my journey in this lifetime has been to try to carry a message in multiple arenas. So with that said, let me see if I can back up. I took EquiDetox way before I started working for the Army. So I took it on a reservation in Arizona, Totono Altum. Special feelings for it. And I used it there a lot, loved it. Phyllis Spears trained us. We love Phyllis. So, and then my journey took me all over the universe and back, and I landed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And so who would ever think that that would be where I'd land, but that's where I landed. And the major in charge of behavioral health was of Chinese descent. So I thought, he'll go for this. He laughed me out of his office, literally. And I'm like, okay, we won't be doing this here. So enough for behavioral health at Fort Sill. Now I'm down to Fort Hood, Texas. I'm one of these people that I need to learn new things, meet new people, try new stuff, and be challenged in my work. And when my work becomes boring, I start looking around. And so I'm about ready to make probably my last move because I'm older and I'm tired. So wherever the last move is, hopefully I'm going to stay there because I'm pretty much done with this. So I landed in Killeen, Texas. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, folks. I think that is the angriest city I have ever been in my life. I got out of my car and was immediately hit by all this. And because I'm wide open, I didn't know what to do about that. I did my best. So I worked at I worked at the substance abuse program. We couldn't do it there. Sorry, we're not doing this here. Okay, fine. But then my boss, who's the chief of behavioral health, the colonel, was deploying to Iraq, and he's like, I want you to start up this intensive outpatient program, and I want you to do it. Will you do it? I said, yep. Dual diagnosis, EMDR, EquiDetox. He said, yes. And so I'm like, right person, right place, right time. Thank you, Colonel Phillips. Okay, Colonel Phillips leaves. I start up EquiDetox. I find, through NADA, Claudia Voiles, who drives up from Austin every day for a week and trains 9 staff members who knew nothing about EquiDetox. We stuck each other in this ratty trailer that was condemned because our building wasn't finished being built yet. And we spent a lot of time in there designing this intensive outpatient dual diagnosis program, sticking each other whenever we could. And so we would just stop and do EquiDetox. And so if we got stuck in our design process, we'd do EquiDetox. So we did a lot of EquiDetox in that time. The program launched, our patients loved it 5 days a week. Because it was a cohort model program where people all start on the same day, they graduate on the same day. So anybody who comes in the middle gets an intake but has to wait. What did we do with them? We showed them the video. It's Unimagined Bridges. Unimagined Bridges. We showed them the video and gave them a talk about EquiDetox and let them do walk-ins for EquiDetox 3 times a week. So we found the people that came and did the walk-in pre-treatment with EquiDetox did better in the program than the people who just started the program and had EquiDetox every day and EMDR and whatever. So just a little. So your wait list, folks, give them acupuncture. So anyway, that was lovely, but I had a sort of an insider who was a sabotager. And so my boss suddenly calls me and says, well, we don't think you should be doing EquiDetox. There's just not enough research to support it. Manual, back in the manual, research, here. So he went away and stopped bothering me. So took care of that. Then Susan Shaw, yay, realized just how angry Colleen was and said, I got to go back to Fort Sill. She goes back to Fort Sill and takes AccuDetox with her. And now Fort Sill is a humming beehive of AccuDetox. Yay! So I forgot to say, Claudia convinced me to become a trainer. She said, "You're going to become a trainer." I'm like, "I am?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." So my very first training was Fort Sill said, "Hey, could you come up and train a bunch of people?" So I said, "Sure." So I went up and I trained a bunch of people. And this is a funny story. So here we are. We got, I don't know how many people were in there, a lot, maybe 10, 12. And Susan was sort of helping because she was very familiar. So she's not sort of helping, she was helping. And we're cruising along, but our volunteers disappear. You know, the people that are supposed to come for treatments. So we're sticking each other like mad. And we're like, "Okay, come on, everybody, line up." And we do this assembly line and we go this way. And we're practicing on each other. And so one of our social workers, AJ Fasalva, bless her heart, is now somewhere in New York doing whatever she's doing. She went into the room where the trainees were being bored out of their minds with someone, blah, blah, blah. And she gets on the microphone and she said, "Okay, you guys, you can either sit in here, get in trouble for falling asleep, or you can come in here with us, get acupuncture, fall asleep, and it's okay." So we had a whole bunch of people came in and got acupuncture. And so my trainees got trained and they got to practice, and it was great. So hallelujah, yay, Fort Sill. Yeah. Okay, so Fort Lewis, Washington, JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord, Air Force and Army. Okay, this is a huge medical center. They have a psychology internship there. We are not doing that here. Okay, so the chief of behavioral health was a psychiatrist. He's talking to me about going to work at the IOP, but I like my job. I'm like, I don't want to leave what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. I said, but I'll train the people at the IOP. I'm going to do AccuDetox. Okay, so we trained them. They had a psychiatrist get trained who was one of those people that did not understand the energy. This is an energy treatment. It is not perfect point location stick. This is, I communicate with you. We communicate at an underlying level. There's a loop around that happens. I treat you with intent. There's no verbal anything. I don't ever talk to you except for breathe in and out. Okay, but there's something that happens between us. So there's intent, and I'm looking at you, and I mean this. He could not get that. So he goofed up the program a little bit. I won't give you all the details, but he left. By the way, I'm not speaking for the Army. Please, I do not represent the Army-ness. I represent myself and my own experiences. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Don't get in trouble, don't get in trouble. So, while that IOP program was trying to launch, and it didn't launch with AccuDetox, I trained there was a bunch of substance abuse professionals in there. And they went, "Oh yeah, we want this." They took it back to the substance abuse program. They invited me to come over and train another group of people. I trained some military people in that training, social workers who you'll meet one of, and the rest were all civilian employees. They used AccuDetox like it was going out of style in that program. It took off. The patients loved it. The staff loved it. They were getting good responses. Then leadership, ownership of that program changed hands. And it went out from underneath Garrison, if that means anything, and over underneath Medical Command, which said, "We're decredentialing the lot of you because we don't believe in AccuDetox here. So we're not doing it." So they all lost their credentials for acupuncture. Wrong person, wrong place, wrong time. I spent a lot of time beating my head against the wall. I'm not even treating patients in my job. I was doing administrative psychology. I wasn't treating patients. I sent them, they were like, "Oh, there's not enough research to support." I send the research. They find that one article that says it doesn't work. Yeah, but it's a standalone treatment in this article. It's meant as an adjunct treatment. No, they don't want to hear that. They just look for one thing so they can go click. So I got clicked, and then I became from passionate to annoying, and and not welcome. So I realized one day that I was hanging myself And sometimes it takes me a while to get that. So I got it, and I stopped hanging myself. Oh my God! No, 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, so one more stop at the VA in Augusta, Georgia. What was I thinking? So I get a phone call from this really wonderful man from Nigeria, Dr. Adarabigbe, who says to me, I'm calling you about the position in Augusta, Georgia. Are you still interested in applying? Yes, I am. He says, I have one question for you. I said, what's that? He said, can you kick butt? I said, I can if you let me do AccuDetox. And he said, and so I went to Augusta, Georgia, and I started AccuDetox there, but it was a fight because he didn't credential me right away for AccuDetox. I got there, I wasn't credentialed for it. So I went into his office. I said, look, sir, here's the deal. My furniture still hasn't been delivered. It's in storage, and I'm in temporary housing. There's nothing to stop me from going back to Washington. I need you to credential me for AccuDetox. Oh. So he did, but it took him 2 months. So as I wind down, I just want to tell you about that 2 months that I was waiting. I started a symptom management group for veterans, Vietnam War vets with PTSD. And I'm going to start crying because I loved those guys. And by the time the 2 months was up, we were laughing about how many weapons you had in your house, how many times you were looking out the window, what kind of stuff was setting you off in your yard, what was happening with your mood, why was this going on, all these things. We never talked about what happened. That was not part of it. That's not part of the deal. And then I said, hey, you guys, I just got credentialed for AccuDetox. Want to check it out? It'll make you feel better. That's all I said, make you feel better. Not, it'll improve your mood, decrease your arousal, possibly help your pain, and maybe help your sleep. You know, so I didn't say all that. I just said make you feel better. A couple guys came. The next thing you know, I had 16. I can stick 16 people in 10 minutes. I don't know if that's fast or not, but I I had a nurse that would follow me around and give me the hand washy stuff. So I washed my hands, and the next person she'd hand me the needles, and so we got really fast at it. So I'm just really grateful that for some reason my path is aligned with NADA. Wherever I go is my next stop. I'm hoping it's my last stop and I can just retire there because I'm tired. But whatever it is, I'm going to have to do AccuDetox or it's just not going to happen for me. So thank you very much. Oh, wait. I want to introduce, can I use your rank or not? Can I use your rank? Okay. This is Lieutenant Colonel Marty Stanny, who trained with me at Madigan and Fort Lewis, who is going to tell you an awesome story of where military AccuDetox can go. And that's always been my vision, that having the military people who are trained take it to their next post when they move around the country and around the world. That's always been my vision. So we have Dr. Schrader, who's doing it in Hawaii, and now Lieutenant Colonel Stanny.
Hello. Thank you. As Dr. Jones says, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Marty Stanny. You can call me Marty. Thank you. I've been in the Army for 18 years, serving active duty. So that's 2 deployments to Iraq and 2 to Afghanistan. So I was trained by Dr. Jones in, I think it was February 2016. And lo and behold, I was heading to Afghanistan in May of 2016. I was the commander of the Combat and Operational Stress Control Detachment. So basically, all of the licensed therapists, there were 4 of us and several behavioral health techs. So got on ground, super, super busy, as you can imagine, a theater of, 10,000 plus people, 4 providers. So we had our work cut out for us. So while I was there, one of the charges that I was given was to set up a telebehavioral health network so we could service these 17 different places. So that meant I needed to go and ask for money, beg for machinery, beg for support. And as I was talking to the senior logistician of the entire theater, I was like, hey, can we have some, some video monitors and some, some Alpha Stem and some, meditation CD, we were yoga mats. I mean, we were asking for a lot of different things to kind of help our program. And she was like, why don't you just do acupuncture? And I was like, oh, I don't do acupuncture. However, I've got something, that fits in a nice little case that I can, travel around and do. And so she was like, and next thing I know, she approved all my requests, first of all, which was great. And then the next thing, I get an email from her, this senior person, and she says, hey, can you come by and do that thing you were talking about? Because I had my few minutes that I got to explain what the NADA protocol was all about, in front of a lot of people as I was begging for money. And so I was like, okay, great. Yeah. So I petitioned my hospital there. I had a very laid back Air Force commander who was all about giving me some support because I helped him, he helped me. So he got, basically I ordered a ton of supplies, brought those over. And then, I was basically making my way with my little case of needles all over Afghanistan. So I would provide treatment to, the senior staff members. I would, get on my helicopter with my little bag of needles and touch down in all these different locations and, and introduce this as a way to, hey, you don't have to talk to me because, stigma in the military and behavioral health, it's real. You don't have to talk to me. Let's just hang out. Let me stick you with a few needles. I think one of the best testimonies I got from anyone was I touched down on this base where we had a lot of special operations folks who were training Afghan special operations folks. And I did a treatment on one gentleman who'd been in for quite a while. And he said, wow, this is the first time I slept through the night in 10 years. And so he told that to other people. And next thing you know, they were tracking every time my helicopter landed. They're like, hey, you're that person that does the needles, right? Like you do the acupuncture. I'm like, well, not a protocol, but okay, whatever you want to call it. but yeah, here I am. And so I was very fortunate and very welcomed in a lot of different circles because I did this. We had several different very traumatic events while I was there. There was one event, I happened to actually be coming back from a base, and so I was lazy one morning. Normally we have these 5K runs. I was supposed to go do the run the next morning. I was lazy, but it was probably a good thing because we had a suicide bomber and, killed several people and, wounded many others. And so I was able to provide help for the first responders as well as, pretty much the whole base was traumatized. So this was a great opportunity to do that. So let's see. So after Afghanistan got back, I put AccuDetox on my credentialing packet and they didn't even look at it, kind of sailed through. So I was like, oh, great, I'm credentialed, awesome. And so I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which was my next duty station. And at that point, I was the chief of a clinic there. And I was like, well, fine, I'm going to make a AccuDetox group. No one's here telling me no. So it was a great way to introduce this to our 101st Airborne Division, if anyone knows that, 3rd Brigade. That's if you watch the show Band of Brothers, that's those guys. And so we were able to now. I was doing 2 groups a week. Sometimes up to 50 people, depending on, how many groups I could get in. Now I do 1 group there and then 1 group 3 groups in the IOP there. So now I'm getting questions of how can I continue this? How can I get more? And that's the problem is when I leave Fort Campbell, the program's over. So I'm leaving Fort Campbell this summer, actually. So I'm headed to Fort Sam Houston down the road here. And I got chosen to be the Director of Behavioral Health Sciences at the Army Medical Department Center and School. So that puts me in the role of influencing training in the Army Medical Department. And so right now we're in a major transition. Defense Health Agency, and now the training doctrine posts for command for the Army is now taking over the center in school. So this could be a good time for me to introduce this and to get more trainers throughout the military. So it's an opportunity, and I welcome you all to share your brilliance with me to help me. So maybe like, a few years from now, I can stand here and tell you, hey, guess what? We've got trainers now. We have, providers trained to do this all throughout the active duty military. So thank you all so much for having me today.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Williams. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I work at the Central Texas VA healthcare system in Temple. And I love hearing how much you feel anger over Fort Hood, which is in Killeen. You can't hear me back there? Can you hear me now? Okay. Oh, I feel like that commercial. Anyways, I had slides. It's coming up. All right. So I just want to give you a little background. So I run a headache clinic. And I run an integrative headache clinic. Half of my patients failed neurology. And as a nurse practitioner, my prior experience was that I was working for 5 years in a head injury program at Landstuhl, Germany for the active duty service members. During that 5 years, I was blessed to find out how hard it is to be deployed, and my hats go off to you for your 4 deployments. That's unbelievable. I learned to truly love the active duty side and also the veterans that I serve, because I know they were once those active duty service members. And I'm seeing the chronic side of what I saw acutely. So I feel like I've been put in the right place at the right time, and trying to find the right people in order to get this going. And I feel like NADA came at the right time, and there's a wonderful little small cohort that I have here, and I feel we're going to be able to roll this out. So just a little bit about our VA. It includes the Waco, Temple, and Austin campuses, and Temple has the main hospital. We serve about 100,000 veterans, and that population is growing because we sit next to Fort Hood, which is the largest Army base. And this is economically a good place for them to retire. So they're going to retire here. Now, the other part of Fort Hood is that it also has a head injury program and a headache clinic. So they have 2 ways they're treating headaches. This brings me to my problem, not yours, but anyways. Some of the challenges we have is that our system continues to expand, even though we don't have the space for it. We are continually trying to see new veterans, and we're trying to take care of the old ones. Somewhere along the way, I feel sometimes the VA forgets that we're taking care of disabled veterans. It's not acute care that we're trying to do. What part of disabled do we not understand? And that is the issue with trying to get these services sometimes. So the majority of the patients that have head injuries also end up with chronic headaches because of their head injuries. From 2000 to 2017, there were over 360,000 head injury patients, and most of those were from the Army because they have the largest amount of personnel, and they're also in the front lines. 80% of those are concussion. So headaches in the VA, from 2017, there were over 390,000 diagnosed with headaches. So more than the head injuries. And I'm sure there are many more than that. But that is the statistics that I could find. And also what goes along with that, those headaches, are those comorbid issues. So the PTSD, the insomnia, the chronic pain. Where do you start? Where do you break that cycle? My patients, for the most part, failed meds, or the meds aren't working, or they're zombies, and they want to be off those meds. So some of the challenges we have are some of the limits. Space is an issue, funding is an issue, personnel is an issue. In addition, trying to get people in for acupuncture and chiropractic care is very limited. And I hate the statement that our VA uses, is that they don't believe chiropractic care should be used for chronic issues. Oh, I didn't know I had that. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Oops. What happened? There we go. Sorry. I didn't know I had this. There we are. We're halfway through it. So they are limiting everything that we're able to do for the veterans to some extent. In addition, credentialing can take months when we're trying to get people credentialed. So one of the things that I train is battlefield acupuncture. Even though I trained them, I did a training in San Antonio in December, and I believe the first person just got credentialed, 3 months later, and that's because she's a nurse practitioner who really likes to go ahead of the game. So very proud of you, Jill. In addition, we have a lot of chronic pain, and there's a great need to find alternatives for all of these issues. So this is just a little bit about what I see and what I do. My practice, I do Botox, occipital blocks, acupuncture, I do some aromatherapy, relaxation techniques, medication management. As I said, most of them want off their meds or their meds aren't working. And so I have been allowed to treat these patients in the way that I felt was most helpful. And I had to learn this along the way. It's not in a textbook anywhere. And that's the part that is very frustrating. But if you start asking enough questions, you're going to find some answers. I'm the only provider. I've been the only provider for 5.5 years. I have 150 patients who I see, many of them every month, because I do the Botox and then the acupuncture and the occipital blocks in between. But I still send them out for acupuncture as best I can, and also chiropractic care. We also have neurology providers. There's 7 providers. None of them do acupuncture, although a couple of them have been trained in battlefield acupuncture. Their problem is they don't have time, and that is yet another issue that we have. Currently, in our footprint, we have over 7,000 headache patients, so I'm only seeing 150 of those. I know there are many more that need to be seen. The other part of this is money and funding. And I was so glad that Claudia asked me to do this talk because it made me do some research on all of this. In 2018, we did 648 unique appointments for acupuncture. That was from all of the providers who do acupuncture in either Waco, Austin, or Temple. Of those, I did 160 of those. Full body. Some of them were just ear. So we have one person who's doing a BFA clinic, a battlefield acupuncture clinic. We sent out over 1,500 community care consults. And I love my community care acupuncturists. I can't tell you, I mean, they're just wonderful. The problem is the funding will dry up, and it already has at one point. Those were just the unique appointments. That was not the total appointments that these veterans had. So if every veteran had their 28 visits that they could have, and say the acupuncture is about $100, we get charged. That's not saying the acupuncturist gets all that, but we get charged about $100 a visit. It's over $4 million that has been spent. That's a lot of personnel we could bring back in, and that's a lot of groups that we can do. And I loved hearing the talk this morning that showed how beneficial groups were. So that gives me something else to take back and put together for the proposal. We do utilize battlefield acupuncture. It is a 5-point protocol on the ear, and it started in 2011. It was pushed out by active duty side and the veteran side, trying to find some way to treat the chronic pain issues. What I see it working great for acute care and acute injuries. I don't know how well it's working for the chronic issues. I don't see it working in my clinic that well. I end up doing some other PTSD work or using the NADA protocol. And it also is limited RNs. We're having a hard time getting RNs to be able to be allowed to do it because of the Board of Nursing. And also, you're not supposed to administer it during pregnancy. And so when I took the NADA training, I was quite happy to see it said, yes, definitely pregnancy. You can use it. So that was awesome. And Claudia, I believe you introduced me to Mark a couple years ago. And then I found out we had done emails back and forth on a couple of other things. But when I found out that they were using the NADA protocol at the Richmond VA for chronic pain, I went, oh my gosh, I have got to learn this. How do we get this involved? And Debbie Summers had taken Claudia's class and said, I have just the person you need to talk to. I'm like, I've been trying to find this person for a year. So again, right person, right time, right place, you know? So the future of NADA at I see it just expanding greatly. We have a DOM, and I was told it's one of the biggest domiciliaries in all of the VAs, Rich. And the DOM can hold patients anywhere from 30 to 90 days, and it's substance abuse and other issues. So it's a perfect place to roll out a NADA protocol. And I found out that we have a AccuDetox specialist who's currently on active duty at Fort Hood and will be coming back in April. So we're hoping to utilize her as well as all of us here that completed our training. I'd also like to use it in the inpatient, outpatient, mental health. We do have a PharmD who's in mental health, and he is certified in battlefield acupuncture, and he has a clinic. So I can foresee us possibly getting him or somebody in mental health certified with this now that we have our task force going forward. And then the CLC, which is the community care living. So it's the, I hate to say the old folks home, but it's where our elderly veterans are. And there's a lot of pain there. So we'd like to be able to see if we could roll that out here. Of course, we're counting on that legislation that they're going to pass in Texas, right? That they're going to say it's for mental health issues as well, so that we can push it forward a little more. The other advantages is that it is helpful for substance abuse. So many of my patients use tobacco, or they're using alcohol to sleep, or those other things. So we're hoping that that will be helpful. There's a greater flexibility in who can be taught. And I would like to, I don't know how many RNs we have at our VA, but it would be a force multiplier big time. And it appears to be more helpful in chronic pain than BFA. And it can be administered in pregnancy, which is huge. And I just want to thank everybody for letting me talk about it.
We were able to leave enough time for questions. So any questions? Yes.
One of the things we're trying to do in Santa Barbara is that our program, Compassionate Care for Caregivers, we went into the homes of terminally ill patients and we would treat them and their caregivers with a full body acupuncture, as well as yoga, Reiki, massage, and the NADA protocol. And when our school closed, we no longer had the interns, so we couldn't do the treatments. And so the organizations where we did these protocols, it stopped basically. So our goal now is to embed these programs into the organizations so that, you know, for example, at the cancer center where they do yoga, if the yoga instructor decides to move to Hawaii, they don't stop doing yoga, you know? So the goal is to get these programs embedded so that it's just a part of what they do. And when you leave, they're replaced. So do you see why is the program going to end when you leave? And is there a way for you to create a legacy so that it continues?
Now can you, oh yeah, you can hear me. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, sustainability is what it's all about. Unfortunately, a lot of our programs are leadership dependent. And so that depends on whether or not the leadership of that base, that hospital, that Department of Behavioral Health supports the program. So, and when I got to Fort Campbell, my leadership was about it. You know, they were okay with it. My current leadership is not so much. However, I'm still doing it. We're the same rank, so I'm doing it. So I guess that would be my goal at my next position. So having more ownership and leadership over the training throughout all of the Army, and seeing how I can pitch this to leadership to say, okay, we do BFA, we do the battlefield acupuncture. Here's the NADA protocol benefits, and here's why this would work in our, our embedded behavioral health systems. And so that's, why I need your brilliance, I need your genius to help me pitch this in a way that our military leadership would understand. And so then we could spread that throughout, all the different posts, all the different, just everywhere, make it widespread. Yeah.
Would be, for example, with the Medical Reserve Corps, which is I'm a volunteer for acupuncture with Medical Reserve Corps, and we wanted to start helping other Medical Reserve Corps develop. And what we realized is that as we were going out to these different Medical Reserve Corps and saying, hey, you should have an acupuncture unit, one of my colleagues, Renee Barca, who has spoke with NADA before, said, let's just go to the top. We need this to be a trickle down thing. And so once we went to the top, to DC, and got the head of the Medical Reserve Corps to see, why this is a good thing, now it's opened up to whoever wants to do it. Is that also an avenue for you?
That's my vision. I'm at the top of the behavioral health training for the Army. That's what I'm doing in San Antonio next. So we'll see.
This is actually for Karen. Because I used to work with the Warrior Transition Unit at SIL, I had a young man that really challenged me. He had some really severe PTSD. He's 22 years old, can't go out in the sunlight because of his brain injury and his multiple severe concussions, and then rolling down a really big mountain in Afghanistan. So I worked with him for a long time. I got his PTSD to come down, but I could never get his headaches to stop. I could get him to come down to like a 5, but I can ever get him to stay lower than that for any length of time. So I worked with a wonderful doc, and I'm like, ma'am, aren't you a doctor of osteopathy? You're a DO, right? You know about brain things, and you can move those bones in people's heads, right? And she's like, well, I haven't done any of that. I said, but you can, right? So she was like, you're not going to stop, are you? And I'm like, no, this kid's 22. And so bless her heart, she went home and studied, and she's like, okay. And after this young man got out of the military, 3 years later, he called me and he said, that's the best treatment. And so I wish Dr. Brewer was here so I could say thank you. But you kept at it, tried all these things, all my crayons, that's what people say about me, my crayons, until I don't have to wear midnight black glasses to this day. So don't give up hope. Keep working on it. And for my own PTSD history, a part of my story is a Rolfer made my headaches completely go away. So there are a lot of crayons out there.
And yes, I agree. I'm finding more of them all the time. Thanks.
Hi. I wanted to say it from my experience, and we were talking at lunch about the difference between battlefield acupuncture and NADA, so that was really helpful to clarify that. That was a question for us. So in my experience, the NADA protocol has done amazing things for people with grief. And knowing what the vets go through, I'm sure there's a lot of grief issues. And I have 2 friends that took our clinic, and then because I got the training, I'm able to continue giving them the protocol, and they ask me for it. And it's very helpful. And the doctor that I have is now ADS trained, and she can do it when none of us can. And she gave treatments to the local hospice providers. And I've also given it to my friend who died recently of cancer and his wife. And so I'll just give that as an option too. That it's very, very beneficial in my experience.
Did you have any luck with oh, thank you. You all of you mentioned sleep deprivation. Any success in that?
So we're not supposed to say that it helps sleep in pain. So we don't. But we have anecdotal evidence constantly that says, wow, I slept so much better. My headaches are better. My back stopped hurting. So we get all these wonderful statements from our people. But I wanted to mention a couple of things, if you don't mind my blathering some more, because this is like an hour talk. One thing is, if you're ever going to do military treatments and use AccuDetox, or you want to train in AccuDetox, I give them standard operating procedures written for the hospitals so they can then edit it so it matches their hospital. Connect with your infection control people and become their best friends and your safety officers so that they don't get twisted because you've got a psychologist or a social worker or whatever running around with needles. So you connect with them, you have them review your standard operating procedures, SOPs, make sure they like them, and then you start launching. Because when you have all those ducks in a row, you don't have any trouble after the fact where they start coming back and trying to hatchet you from the rear. You never talked to me, I didn't know anything about this. So it's the same stuff that's in the NADA manual, but we retyped it so that it had the hospital logos on it. NADA gives you everything in the book, so it's not like I came up with anything special. That standard operating procedures are different. That's not in the NADA book, but if anybody ever wants them, I morphed them for the VA, I morphed them for the Army, I could morph them for the Navy or the Air Force or whoever. It's pretty straightforward. Then I want to tell you one story about PTSD, because one of the things I tell our soldiers is, again, back at Fort Sill in an intensive outpatient program again, and this is, for some reason I keep moving around in this dual diagnosis world of substance abuse and mental health. While at Fort Hood, we had a Navajo soldier, E5 sergeant, who came in for his pre-programmed walk-in clinic. And that guy cried the entire treatment. And one of the things I tell him is that there's under the radar processing happening. So while you're in the zone of AccuLand, things are happening in your brain and you are processing your trauma, you are processing depression, you are processing your grief. Things are moving and changing, your energy is shifting. You are moving your stagnation so that you don't have stagnation anymore. So I say, so I always think of this, you have a stagnation. So that's what comes in my mind. So I told him, I normalized that. It's really normal because you're processing your stuff. You're processing your stuff. And he did very, very well in the program. One other, my own personal anecdote, while under full body acupuncture with a lady who is a triple Scorpio, if that means anything to anybody in this room. So needles, needles, needles. There was a little old lady in the room with us, I swear to God, and she was of Asian descent, and she was chuckling and carrying a moxa and walking around the room in there with us. But really, there was nobody in there. So this is 2 times I've had these kind of weird episodes, whether with acupuncture or AccuDetox. The other time I left my body completely and could see myself in the chair with the needles in my ears, and I was just smiling. So whatever that means, I don't know. I just know I got to do this. I'm doing this.
I'll make a comment about sleep. I'll bring it back around. Actually, that's how I get people in my group. The soldiers tell each other, hey, you can go to this group and take a nap for an hour as opposed to going to the motor pool or being out in the pouring down rain or the really hot sun. And that's how I get, they tell each other this. And so that's how I end up with like 16 people in the small conference room. And everyone is out cold. And, you know, and then they tell each other, I sleep better the night after, I sleep better the week after. And, you know, I never say you're going to sleep better. I say, some soldiers say they might sleep better after this. And so, I mean, soldiers have a notoriously horrible sleep-wake cycle. So it's great. And even for commanders, I did start a group for commanders and first sergeants and leadership, as I called it, command mental maintenance. And, you know, that was one of the things. I'm like, hey, your soldiers are saying they're sleeping better. Come on in. So.
In my hometown, which is Manchester, New Hampshire, one of my friends is with the group Veterans for Peace, and he was reading an article about acupuncture being used in the military that he had seen in a magazine in, I guess, a doctor's office at the VA. And so I was wondering, are you getting any of your stories into some of these periodicals that are produced by the military? And can you do that? Is anything holding you back from doing that? Would you please do that, is what I'm asking. Because we need as much publicity as possible. We need letters to the editor, we need op-eds, and then we need stories getting published whenever and wherever possible.
I need about 5 more hours in the day, but yes.
So did my husband plant you here? I get that comment all the time. He's retired Marine, and he's like, look, you could put it in Military Times. You could do this. And you're absolutely right. We do need to do the Reader's Digest version to get it out there to say, hey, there's much more than drinking or, you know, taking the meds that aren't working for you that we can do. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, it's queued up and could be shown. Sarah? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so let me just say something about this video. The local PBS station in Richmond, Virginia, unbeknownst to us in our clinic, and we didn't even have any warning.
Major funding for.
We didn't even have any warning that they were going to come and do this. So it was really kind of the last minute, the same day the TV crew came in, and the veterans were really excited about it and wanted to share their story. Some of you may have seen it. It's been on the NADA website. But
Acupuncture has been used to treat chronic pain for thousands of years, and a specialized group therapy that involves placing needles in the ears has made its way to Richmond's McGuire VA Medical Center. For this week's Currents in the Community, I went there to see how it's helping veterans boost their body, mind, and spirit.
The music is playing, it reduces the stress in the room. And so I'm able to relax and enjoy the moments of just sitting there with the pain diminishing and enjoying the acupuncture.
this is a treatment that's known as the NADA protocol. NADA stands for the National Acupuncture Detoxification Association. It's very helpful for people in trauma. It's helpful for veterans with PTSD. Chronic pain tends to activate that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight part of the nervous system. Most of the patients who come into our clinic have sort of a jacked up nervous system. They aren't sleeping well because of their pain. So it allows patients to come in and get an easy, rather quick treatment that helps to calm their nerves, helps them to sleep better. Then they're more prepared for learning the skills that we're teaching. We're teaching mindfulness meditation, Qigong, Tai Chi, teaching them biofeedback, which helps also to calm the nervous system. So all of these skills are difficult to learn if you're really in significant pain and you're not sleeping well and whatnot.
I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. I experienced a traumatic event that I'm still not comfortable with talking about. This was back in the early 80s. I had got to the point where the depression, like I said, had me isolated. I was withdrawn. The experience here at the VA with the ear acupuncture and with the doctors and the fellow veterans has been enlightening.
When you're in that group environment too, you're sharing all of that positive energy. That's part of the equation for getting to a healthier self too, being around folks who've walked your same path.
You are exactly right. That is part of the healing process. Difficult though it may be, I find the group environment is starting to be one of the greatest assets.
There's been a couple instances where I would come in, I'll be hurting somewhere. I got pains all over me. And I would come in, and by the end of it, it was like it's gone or it's calmed down to a point where I barely notice it.
People sometimes are afraid of needles. Does it hurt?
Yeah, a little. It's a little bee sting. Yeah. But once it's in, I don't feel it. You know what to expect after the first trip. And so you just relax and it happens and you just sit there or lie there now.
Sometimes you start meditating. Wow, this is the only time I've actually been able to calm down and quiet my mind. And sometimes you actually end up sleeping.
It's what makes my job so rewarding is seeing the results from patients. Seeing people calm down, it's remarkable, really.
It focuses me. It allows me to organize the chaos that's inside my mind. And it creates a tremendous feeling of hope. And hope is crucial for a person like me right now.
This ear procedure for relaxation and pain relief is available at acupuncture clinics across Virginia. And McGuire, it's offered at the Veterans Integrated Pain Center. You can find out more information about it by searching online for McGuire VIP. The center practitioners teach a variety of techniques to veterans so they can be empowered to break the cycle of chronic pain. Besides those listed on the screen, they also teach Feldenkrais, a gentle movement that helps to ease pain, a procedure we will feature in an upcoming episode.
The shocking thing to me about that is that it was our hospital's public affairs office that arranged this, right? So going from my experience of trying to incorporate NADA to begin with to have this happen was fantastic. Yeah.
We just received this picture from Rachel, who had a comment earlier, so I just wanted to give you a minute to share who's in that.
The person sitting in the front row off to the right, it's a friend of mine, and he was on the board of this nonprofit called Vets on My Way Home. And this organization welcomes vets home. We're in California. No matter whether they came home today or 30 plus years ago, and they want to give them a proper welcome home. And so he's a patient and friend and said, would you come do NADA for this group? And I did. And out of 20 people, 18 of them said yes. And we had the experience of people crying, convulsing, falling asleep. It was just so amazing and heart-opening. And then the two people who had declined towards the end came and said, wait, is it too late? And I was like, yeah, sorry, it's too late. No, of course not. So all 20 of the members and also the volunteers received the acupuncture. And it was just for me, a wonderful experience. And I hope to be able to continue that. They're in California and they have these events, I think, twice a year. So I don't know if it exists in other areas of the state of the United States, but I just wanted to share that with you.
So we want to conclude this panel by really recognizing your service and your leadership. What's really exciting is that there is this like beautiful tier here. Cornelia is a current trainer. Marty's application is on our desk. And Karen just finished the training with Claudia like a week ago, right? And is en route to her mentorship process to become a trainer. So this is how this grows. I can't do this both. Thank you, Marty. Thanks. Our certificates of appreciation for their incredible leadership. Thank you. Oh, come stand up. Show it off. Show it off.